And welcome back to the Savage Patriots America. As you can see, Marlon Brown is still out for the count with the case of the flu. But again, the show, yeah, it is the flu.
Jeez.
Show must go on. And we're going to talk about Donald Trump's immunity or presidential immunity in general. We're going to break it all down, give our opinion on what we think this will lead to in the long run. It's going to be good. So make sure you share it with your friends. Stay tuned, and we'll see you on the other side. And welcome to the future. So yeah, so what do you guys think on the panel? Coy, Jay, what do you guys think about this whole immunity thing?
I think that the theme that we should be hyper focused on for today is the idea of precedence. That's PRECEDENCE for those of you who are tracking. Precedence, I think, is the main focus on what we need to recognize. And then if that's our foundational intellectual standing point, I think then it makes this entire episode somewhat understandable.
Agreed. Honestly, I think it's a happy accident.
Yeah.
Because like nobody thought that going after Trump would be this hard in the first place. So they made it to the Supreme Court, and now we're arguing presidential immunity, which is something that it would have never been brought up had they not brought up this case. So they accidentally fell into what does the executive branch actually have power over? Like that's where we're arguing right now is where does presidential immunity start and where does it stop? And so now we're putting confines on the executive office of the United States on what the president can and can't do, which isn't something that they meant to do, by the way, because that hampers all of their things in the future.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and what made them think that Trump wasn't going to fight till the end? You know what I mean? They've been hitting him with so much, which we've discussed many times on both our platforms. He keeps coming back even stronger, richer. He just keeps coming back. During his 2016 run, they tried to ruin his name. They tried to defame him. He never backed out, and he won. So what made them think that this was going to get him to quit? Because at the end, that's what they really want. They just want him to get out, walk away, and go away. But he's not. That should say a lot about him. That does say a lot about his character.
Donald Trump is the Lich King.
Yeah,
I would argue. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you can keep knocking him down. He's just going to keep getting back up. I mean, you can't get rid of him.
Yeah. And so this episode is going to be a lot of video based because we want to put a lot of things into context. So you're going to see a lot of videos that Coy's going to bring up, and we're just going to discuss it, and we're going to give our opinion on it, and just enjoy the ride, America.
Right. Before that, I want to since you brought up that Nancy Pelosi video, I want to share that with everybody too before we get started, because that is just funny. It just shows you. It gives context to the amount of disdain that these people have for you and everybody else. Is that
9 million jobs in
that wasn't
his
supposed to
term
happen.
in office.
No, well.
Donald Trump has the worst record of job loss of any president. So we just have to make sure people know.
That was a global pandemic.
He had the worst record of any president. We've had other concerns in our country. If you want to be an apologist for Donald Trump, that may be your role, but it ain't mine.
Look on her face, like, wait, what? Did you just call me a Donald Trump apologist to my face?
Like y'all understand the context. This is an MSNBC. This is okay. I put it this way: they are TMZ MSNBC.
Yes.
Okay. Literally, this woman right here, this journotard right here, is probably one of the least credible sources. But not only that, she's literally one of the most anti-Trump white liberal journotards on this side of left-wing media. Yeah, and she is being accused of being a Trump apologist. I mean,
right? Because she told the truth, which was it was a global pandemic that killed that many jobs. It wasn't Donald Trump. It was a global pandemic.
And
So-
remember, she did interview Donald Trump. Remember that interview with
Yeah.
her, and
Oh,
Donald
yeah.
Trump was like, "You're a nasty woman. You're a
You're a
Oh, yeah.
nasty woman. Yeah.
That's her."
She is not an apologist for him. She was just telling
Yeah.
you the truth how it was. And she's like,
Right, yep.
no, you were supposed to repeat what I just said.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You remember mainstream media? You're on our side. You work for us, the cabal.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be calling out our lies. You're supposed to just attack Donald Trump. And when she called her out on a lie, and she was right, it was a lie. Nancy used that pause, and she was like, "This be."
How much you bet?
Went right back in.
How much you want to bet she gets demoted and never is allowed to interview Nancy Pelosi ever again?
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nancy Pelosi.
For sure.
He took a shot of vodka after that, and she was stormed out screaming and angry. I want her job. And
I mean,
you
did
know.
you see Nancy like when she was hit with that reality of the pandemic in 2020? Did you see her face all of a sudden like kind of sort of like
Yeah.
twist
Yeah.
gears and,
Let's
like,
bring that. Let's actually bring that up because like you can see the moment when she was like, you were supposed to do the thing that you were supposed to do.
Yeah,
supposed to squawk what I was.
Wait, I think it's that face right there. That's the face.
yeah. You're not supposed to ask me hard questions. Those are only for Donald Trump. You're supposed to have soft gloves, soft hands with us. Ask us easy questions. Ask us what's our favorite ice cream.
Can you bring it up?
Is it on?
No, it got pulled down.
Yeah. But that's how they are. That's how these leftists are, and that's how these left-wing cabal trode media outlets are. Propaganda media outlets is that anybody leftist, and they just show their true colors. Because anybody on the left that gets on there is down with their communist, agenda. It's always soft hands, soft gloves. They ask them easy questions. Oh, what's your favorite team? Oh, your favorite flavor of ice cream. Donald Trump gets on there. They hit him left and right, and they try to take the dude out. And he called him out for that.
What is that buzzing?
I don't know. But yeah. It happens. What's up? Is this that face right there? We are having audio problems because I cannot hear Coy.
No, I had it muted, but can you hear a buzzing or is that just me?
I can hear it too.
Okay.
That's a 3-letter agency messing with our feed.
Nancy Pelosi is being upset. Hey,
Yeah.
Everybody, mute your mic real quick. We'll figure out whose is whose.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from because it's not me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's somebody messing with it. But anyways, show must go on. Just ignore the buzz.
I don't know if I can ignore that buzz.
Yeah, we can ignore it. I've ignored.
Jay, you're
worse.
still muted, by the way.
Yeah, I've ignored worse sounds.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't like us talking. But yeah, you just see like in Nancy Pelosi's face, and when she was asked that question, you understand how they control the media. When the media goes off script, they really get upset.
Yep, they do. So let's go with the next one then. I got a couple of videos for the Supreme Court justices questioning some of the lawyers' intents. I think some of the ones from the liberal justices. Trying to find the one that had it. Where's that one chick? I think this is the one right here.
Yeah. All right, yeah, this is a good one. Everyone listen up real close.
If you can.
Closely.
If a president can be charged, put on trial, and imprisoned for his most controversial decisions as soon as he leaves office, that looming threat will distort the president's decision-making precisely when bold and fearless action is most needed.
But once we say, no criminal liability, Mr. President, you can do whatever you want, I'm worried that we would have a worse problem than the problem of the president feeling constrained to follow the law while he's in office.
I respectfully disagree with that. The implications of the court's decision here extend far beyond the facts of this case. Could President George W. Bush have been sent to prison for obstructing an official proceeding or allegedly lying to Congress to induce war in Iraq? Could President Obama be charged with?
Yes.
Yes.
The answer should be yes. Yes, he should be charged for that.
Yes.
Yeah, he should be. Like, I don't think there's really a doubt in that.
Mm-hmm.
That might be it. Anyway, so
Even
go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
even what he's about to say about Obama is the same. It's the same answer. Yes. And this is where we're going. As we get on in this cast is that they want to get rid of this immunity, but then they have to answer for all these things that could be considered crimes.
Yeah. Because they'll argue, though. Here's the thing: is like the argument really comes down to with the Supreme Court is whether presidential immunity covers what acts, right? And so they're getting narrowed down into what their arguments are going to be of what is consisting of an official duty or an official act, right? And what is, how do you put it? What is a personal act? So they're going to argue that what Donald Trump did in this case was a personal act and not a protected presidential act or an official act. Mm-hmm. Is what the argument's going to come down to. But that means Jack Smith has to go back in his case and redo all of his arguments in order to make it work. Because technically everything that he did was under a presidential duty. Yeah. According to the statutes that we apply now. So, yeah. And here's the next question: is the President Obama being charged
with murder for killing U.S. citizens abroad by drone strike? Could President
which he did do. He killed 2 U.S. citizens with drone strikes without charge or trial. Just unilaterally, like just got rid of the rights and killed them in another country we weren't at war with.
Yes.
In a civilian restaurant, and in one of them, right, with civilians there to assassinate one person, one of which who was under the age of 18, who was 16 years old at the time, and he just happened to be the son of the guy he killed previously.
Interesting.
Yeah, just want to point that fact out. The only Peace Prize winner to bomb more people than any other Peace Prize winner, and also commit murder in the same vein.
Yes. All right, let's finish.
Biden someday be charged with unlawfully inducing immigrants to enter the country illegally for his border policies?
Yes, he should. That is without a doubt. Yes, he should be charged for that.
All right.
The answer to all these questions is no.
So
according to her is no.
There's a P word that I think we started it off with. What is it again?
Precedence.
Yeah.
Oh, precedence. Yeah. So based off of this, he's right. Should they all be charged?
Yeah.
Well, we say yes if they lose immunity, but they say no under what they're trying to pull.
Mm-hmm. No, they're saying no because they're people they like.
Yes.
Yeah. If it was Donald Trump that did any of those things, he would be in jail already.
Oh yeah, he'd be standing in front of the world court.
Could you? I'll take you back. Imagine Donald Trump ran for office in the 2000s and beat out Bush, right? And then he lied to get us in a foreign conflict with a nation that didn't do anything to us because of supposed weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
Do you think that the lefties out there would be okay with Trump just walking around free right now?
Oh no, and even if Trump was in office and say that that scenario happened, I don't even think we would have went to war with Iraq.
No, we wouldn't. I'm just saying if he did do that, though.
No, I'm not saying him. We wouldn't go. I'm saying if he wanted to go to war with him being Trump, Congress would have never approved it. They would have been like, no way, we're not doing anything for Trump. We would have never been in a war.
Well, let's also not forget that during the time of Bush, wasn't he still sort of like a Democrat?
Yeah,
like a classic Democrat. So
you mean people actually liked him? Yeah.
Everybody liked him.
So I mean, would that have mattered considering it was against a warmongering Republican president versus a peace-loving Democrat type guy? But then at the same time, the Democrat guy who is Trump at the time wouldn't he have just done it anyways, and people would have approved because of his position?
No, we would have still gotten into Afghanistan more than likely, but we would never have gotten into Iraq.
At least I think.
So I mean, but I think Afghanistan would have gone a lot differently too. I think what he would have done if he had been in Bush's position was go in and get the guy and not take over the country. Like what should have happened in the first place was to go infiltrate, get who we needed to get, and get out, and leave it alone.
And that happened in the beginning of the war.
Yeah,
but they refused to get the guy, and we ended up being there for over 20 years. So
yeah, because the initial special operations that they put to place to get bin Laden was successful. Ultimately, was really successful, and then they pulled back, and then they went with invasion.
That's right.
For some reason.
Oh, we know the reason.
Yeah, it was money. Obviously, it was money.
Yeah, it's always.
It's money. Like, hey, we could totally have an entire war that we can fund for multiple years and get a lot of money. And so they did, and that's what they did. And then somebody came up and said, "Hey, Iraq, we could
be
tie
a
some
good
things.
place. Iraq needs some democracy,
Which is so funny because he was convinced to do that.
Yeah,
at Camp David, he was convinced to go into Iraq.
Yeah, and one of his reasons outside of weapons of mass destruction was he said, and he tried to kill my dad. When?
He killed my dad.
When did this happen? I don't remember that happening. Yeah. But just a bunch of warmongers that did it all for money for the military-industrial complex. But so now you guys got a feel of what they were saying, and then Corey's going to play some more arguments.
Oh, there's still Justice Jackson. We gotta bring up because you gotta listen to Jackson.
You seem to be worried about the president being chilled. I think that we would have a really significant opposite problem if the president wasn't chilled. If someone with those kinds of powers, the most powerful person in the world, with the greatest amount of authority, could go into office knowing that there would be no potential penalty for committing crimes. I'm trying to understand what the disincentive is from turning the Oval Office into, the seat of criminal activity in this country.
Which she's not wrong in that assessment, because without any sort of limitations on the presidency, they could commit a bunch of acts that could be deemed as official duties, like Obama and Bush did. Right? Those were seen as official acts, even though they were criminal acts.
Yes.
And most people with a brain would consider them criminal acts, getting us involved in a war by lying and defrauding the American public, right? That caused the deaths in millions and trillions and billions of dollars to be lost to said farce, should be prosecutable. Because that's what he did. It's like,
and I hope they will be one day, soon, very soon.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, one day it'll happen.
So, the one I'm going to bring up next is since we're talking about Obama specifically, we're going to talk. This is Kavanaugh bringing up the argument with. It's a longer video, but it brings up the argument that he brings up about the drone strikes too, on whether that should be considered an official act.
Justice Kavanaugh?
As you've indicated, this case has huge implications for the presidency, for the future of the presidency, for the future of the country, in my view. You've referred to the department a few times as having supported the position. Who in the department? Is it the president, the attorney general?
The Solicitor General of the United States. Part of the way in which the special counsel functions is as a component of the Department of Justice. The regulations envision that we reach out and consult, and on a question of this magnitude that involves equities that are far beyond this prosecution, as the questions of the court.
So it's the Solicitor General?
Yes.
Okay. Second, like Justice Gorsuch, I'm not focused on the here and now of this case. I'm very concerned about the future. And I think one of the court's biggest mistakes was Morrison versus Olson. I think that was a terrible decision for the presidency and for the country, and not because there were bad people who were independent counsels, but President Reagan's administration, President Bush's administration, President Clinton's administration were really hampered,
yes,
in their view, all three, by the independent counsel structure. And what I'm worried about here is that that was kind of, let's relax Article 2 a bit for the needs of the moment. And I'm worried about the similar kind of situation applying here. That was a prosecutor investigating a president in each of those circumstances, and someone picked from the opposite party, the current president, usually was how it.
Okay, so just to explain, if you don't understand what's going on, is that he's talking about the way that we conduct investigations in a president. So the last couple of times that we've had independent investigators, they have been partisan to the point that it was detrimental to the actual investigation. So we look at how they handled Russiagate, for instance. It was a Democrat political operative that was conducting an investigation, looking over every stone they possibly could to find anything to charge him with, but they couldn't find anything, but they kept continuing the investigation regardless if the evidence proved otherwise. Right? So that is what he's talking about, and how this is detrimental to the presidency already. And now they want to add on to the argument of presidential immunity and what constitute an official act and non-official act. Right?
Oh, okay.
So like if you give a political opponent the power to prosecute a president, even more power in that way, then it's going to be dangerous. Is what he's getting at.
And and I think another thing that they're worried about, if they lose immunity, say they get rid of presidential immunity, Donald Trump wins.
Yeah.
They know they're all finished. So they don't want him to win, but I think deep down they don't want to lose immunity also. I think this is just I think this is just all a show, just to kind of mess with the election and all this stuff and election interference. But they should be very terrified, if he loses this immunity. They should be very scared, and not just former presidents. I'm talking about all of them, because they think that just a president's going to lose immunity. I'm pretty sure a lot of congressmen and congresswomen have immunity too at some point.
Yeah.
So it's not going to just stop at the president. It's going to be all of them that are going to lose their immunity. So all these congressmen and congresswomen that approved all these wars, that approved all this funding, this foreign aid to foreign countries, I think it's going to affect them also, because Trump's coming for them.
Well, not only that, is they've also used RICO statutes in order to go after Trump, as in it was a criminal enterprise with conspiratorial means, which could apply to certain parties in the United States when it comes to lying to the American public in order to defraud and change an election, or to even convince the American people to go to war. Right.
Yep.
So we can use that same to the Bush era with Cheney and a bunch of other people that were conspiring behind the scenes in order to perpetrate the Iraq War.
And also, don't think the media is safe. Like I said, this is just a snowball, man. If they do this, it's just going to snowball. It's just going to continue to roll. Oh, we're going after them. We're going after vice presidents. We're going after Congress. We're going after the media. We're going after governors. Everybody. Eventually, it's just going to be everybody lose this immunity, all the way down to police officers. It's going to affect everybody. So everybody, they got to be very careful what they wish for. Very, very careful.
Let me see if I can skip ahead to the part that I actually wanted to listen to. But that was an important point to bring up as well, is that the fact that the way that they're going to investigate these unofficial, official acts investigations is going to be through independent counsels. They're going to be through the same sort of people we've already dealt with the Mueller investigation and whatnot. Right? So like it could be purely political from that standpoint and get somebody put onto that investigation that has political motives, which is just as dangerous as doing what they already did with impeachments, which was political motives for both times.
What goes around comes around.
And Justice Scalia wrote that the fairness of a process must be judged on the basis of what it permits to happen, not what it produced in a particular case. You've emphasized many times.
Which is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
With that.
That's the concern going forward, is that the system will, when former presidents are subject to prosecution, and the history of Morrison versus Olson tells us it's not going to stop. It's going to cycle back and be used against the current president or the next president, or and the next president and the next president after that. All that, I want you to try to allay that concern. Why is this not Morrison v. Olson redux if we agree with you?
Well, First of all, the independent counsel regime did have many structural features that emphasized independence at the expense of accountability. We don't have that.
Which they weren't truly independent. They were taking directions from somebody, and whether it be the party or somebody else, it was somebody. They weren't purely independent. Just remember that.
Regime now, but even under that regime, Justice Kavanaugh, I think if you look at Lawrence Walsh's report on Iran-Contra, I think this goes to a very fundamental
That's another one of those
point for the court to consider. Judge Walsh said, I investigated these matters. The proof did not nearly come close to establishing criminal violations. So we've lived from Watergate through the present.
Okay, Iran-Contra didn't produce enough evidence for it to be criminal? Really?
Really? Anything those people do, nothing produces enough evidence to charge them with anything. It never produces enough evidence.
Right, like the Hillary Clinton thing. Oh, there wasn't intent. She wasn't intending to break the law. She just did.
Yeah.
How do you justify that? Like, if
It
it was anybody
well,
else,
the FBI director said.
Right. But if it was anybody else, if it were you or me saying, oh, I didn't mean to, bleach my hard drive full of 30,000 some odd politically motivated, content.
Yeah.
I'd be in jail.
I'm sure the IRS would take that very seriously if you destroyed a bunch of tax documents and said, I didn't intend to destroy them. I just did.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean it. I'm dumb.
I didn't mean it. Well, you still owe us money. Yeah, well, I didn't mean to.
You get thrown under the
That's
jail.
the defense. Right. Yeah, I'm sure the tax office would love that.
Through the independent counsel era, with all of its flaws, without these prosecutions having gone off on a runaway train.
I think President Reagan, President Bush, and President Clinton, whether rightly or wrongly, thought contrary to what you just said.
I think nobody likes being investigated for a crime, but it didn't result in the kind of vindictive prosecutions that I think Your Honor is raising as a possibility.
Yeah.
We haven't.
Because of what's happening right now, which are vindictive prosecutions of Donald Trump just to hamper his election chances.
Sure is. And it's pretty obvious.
It's obvious to anybody because if you look at what they just did with Weinstein in New York, they just got rid of his charges.
Yep.
They acquitted him. Not acquitted him. They dismissed his charges or something in that nature of a known sexual assault rapist. They just said, nah, you messed up the books, so he gets to go free on these ones. He's still in jail because of the California ones, but the ones in New York, he's free from charged from, so he got less time now. But I like how they've gone after Donald Trump so hard, but they still have yet to figure out who the hell is on the Epstein list, or who Ghislaine Maxwell was shipping children to.
Yep, and
for
that
favors.
That list is out, and we still haven't seen it. And the American people know it's out there, but how come they're not talking about that? Because
I wish they would go as hard as
they're
they do
going
with
to
Donald
protect their
Trump.
own. Always, they're always going to protect their own. And Donald Trump is not part of he's not part of the group. He's not part of the club. So they're going to ruin this guy. But they're still going to protect their own. All those dirty, rotten scoundrels up there. They're always going to protect them. And this is why Harvey Weinstein is getting away with what he's getting away with, because they protect their own.
Right. And so it's just funny to me that they've gone after Donald Trump with so much fervor, but it's not politically motivated.
Yeah.
None of it's politically motivated.
None of it.
Just to remind you.
Different system now. I think there was a consensus throughout Washington that there were flaws in the independent counsel system. It lapsed. We now are inside the Justice Department with full accountability resting with the Attorney General. So the special counsel regulations now don't operate the way that the independent counsel regulations do. And this court would have something to say about it, I think, if the independent counsel statute were revived. I'm not sure that anybody is in favor of that.
Right. Now, I was just saying this is kind of the mirror image of that is one way someone could perceive it. But I take your point about the different structural protections internally. And like Justice Scalia said, I do not mean to suggest anything of the sort in the present case. I'm not talking about the present case. So I'm talking about the future. Second, another point you said, talked about the criminal statutes. It's very easy to characterize presidential actions as false or misleading under vague statutes. So President Lyndon Johnson, statements about the Vietnam War. Say something's false turns out to be false that he says about the Vietnam War? 371 prosecution
So
after he leaves office?
I think not, but
That's another one of those ones that probably should have been investigated and arrested for, was the perpetration of the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they even did a false flag in order to make that happen.
Yep.
So just pointing that out there since he brought it up.
this is an area that I do think that merits some serious and nuanced consideration. Statements that are made by a president to the public are not really coming within the realm of criminal statutes. They've never been prosecuted. I realize that the court can say, well, what if they were? And then I think you get to what I would regard as a hard constitutional question that would probably guide the court away from trying to resolve today, although I do think it's very different from our case and distinguishable in important ways. But you're dealing here with two branches of government that have a paramount interest in the integrity and freedom of their interactions with each other. On the one hand, the president, of course, should be very free to send usually his cabinet officials and sub-cabinet officials to testify to Congress, to provide them with the information needed to enact legislation and to make national policy. And we're very concerned about anything that would trammel that. On the other side of the equation, Congress has a compelling interest in receiving accurate information, and at the very least,
I
not
agree.
information that is intentionally and knowingly false. That would pollute the legislative
How about
process.
Which we look at what Bush did to the American people during the Iraq War, where they perpetrated lies, knowingly lied to them. They knew they were lies. They were made up intel. It was made up intelligence in order to convince the American people and the media to be supported of the war in Iraq. So his actions, his administration, all perpetrated criminal actions in conspiracy with each other to defraud the American public, which benefited people that were involved in that war.
Yeah, and everybody involved with it. I'm talking about from the top all the way down. I mean, it's not just the president, man. Everybody who perpetuated that lie, all the way down from the Joint Chiefs to everyone who knew it was a lie, needs to be held accountable. Everyone,
right? Which under their standards of charging all of Trump's lawyers for RICO violations would be the same thing. These all these people colluded with each other to defraud the American public, to get involved in a war we had no business getting involved with, which then lied to Congress, falsified records, right? Even perjury in Congress. We can look at all the things that they did in trying to convince Congress to launch a war, right? They knowingly lied to Congress in order to perpetrate that. So they defrauded not only the American people, but Congress itself to engage in a war.
Yep. And this is the same intel community that lied about it. And the same intel community is the ones they want us to trust.
Right.
And, you know, if you don't trust the intel community, you hear it all the time on the mainstream media. You don't trust our intel, you know, our people. Well, no. Because these are the same people you want me to trust, are the same people that lied about the war in Iraq and lied about multiple other conflicts. So why should I trust anything that comes out of their mouth?
Every single one of them.
Yes. So yes, they all need to be held accountable. All of them. And it's funny how, you know, even people don't look at the fact when George Bush came out and said years after the war has already been going on, it started, oh, it looks like there was no weapons of mass destruction. So you laugh about it.
Yeah.
And because you lied to get us there with weapons of mass destruction, then you laugh about the weapons of mass destruction not being there, and you can't be held accountable for that. Yes.
Yeah. There's actually a clip of that. I need to bring that up. It was a Bush White House Correspondents' Dinner when he's making jokes about weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
Like it's some game to him.
Yeah. And people just laughed it off after all the lives that were lost. All the guys that died over there lost their lives, the civilians and the soldiers and the Marines and the Navy and just all branches. And you laugh about it that they never found them, and it was okay. It's just like, whatever.
And I find it to be a very odd talking point that because of from Bush Jr. all the way up until Obama, and even now with Biden skipping Trump, the notion of the fact that we're losing trust and faith in our institutions, like the FBI was supposed to be the world police and defending our borders, and yet here they are, literally fleecing the American people.
So here's this thing. It's like this. So this would, if I was going to do the trial, this is what one of the clips I would use in order to prove my point that this guy knew what he was doing, and he defrauded the American public to get us in a war.
The conversation went like this. Hey, John, Kim Jong-il here. Just wanted to call and let you know you're my guy. Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
Not even funny.
Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here. Oops, this photo wasn't supposed to be in here.
That's crazy.
Same press corps. That's the same people that are trying to tell you that Donald Trump's the most evil person in the world. And this dude just made a joke about weapons of mass destruction with a family huddled in a freaking corner, man.
Yep.
That's insane to me. That's crazy.
That is a level of psychotic behavior that you do not see.
Yeah. And they were all part of the lie. This is why they're laughing. You know, I wasn't laughing at that. I was pretty upset that he was up there making a joke about it. We went over there and he was preaching about, you know, America and you got to protect this and, you know, terrorists and all this stuff. Weapons of mass destruction. Where are they? We got to find them. And he jokes about not finding them because they were never there.
They were never there to begin with. Yeah. Everybody
there.
knew we were never there to begin with.
Never there.
I do have a question though, because I think part of the reason why all of us normal folk without any sort of military background and the fact that a lot of us have looked at our media before Obama's legalization of propaganda, we looked at our media sources and we saw Hussein use mustard gas, supposedly, allegedly, against the Kurds. And for us, that was the mental connection point that Bush, I guess, ran on, was because he did use mustard gas against the Kurds. And for those of us, you know, sitting, you know, in our living rooms and our school rooms and seeing that, we're just like, well, those got to be weapons of mass destruction. So how do y'all, with those, because you both have military backgrounds, how have you been able to quell that understanding that Bush used, I guess Bush weaponized the compassion that we felt towards Kurds against Hussein, and then when
they used 9/11 in order to garner patriotism, in order to lie to the American people, defraud them into getting into a war that would last 20 years.
Yeah, and when it comes to the Kurds, they use that same thing with us while we were over there. They gave us the backstory of the Kurds. The Kurds are our friends, and the Kurds actually were good people, good fighting force.
Right.
But they used that to kind of get us to really, really hate that regime, you know, that we were fighting, because all these Kurds were killed and, you know, they burnt down all their trees and they used mustard gas on them. And it was a horrible thing.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But they used it on us also. So it changed our mind at that time. It changed our mind on why we're fighting. And we kind of forgot about the weapons of mass destruction per se. We just saw him as an evil person.
Or we're bringing democracy.
Yeah, we got to bring them some democracy.
And then there's also the fact that people tend to forget about the Kurds when it comes to Turkey too, and how we're selling arms to Turkey, who is a NATO member who is oppressing the Kurds anyway. So just want to point that little oxymoron out to people. It's like, oh, they used the Kurds in order to get us to get into Iraq and stuff like that and to perpetrate the war. But then at the same time, we're giving weapons to another group of people that are doing the exact same thing to the Kurds. So.
Sounds very ironic. What is that I say all the time?
Yeah,
everything is a rich man's trick.
Everything is. So that's why this video was important, is because this is what we're talking about. Like, I just showed you the video of a former president who's laughing about the fact that he used his official position to start a war with a country we didn't need to be at war with, and then laughed about it afterwards, after millions of people's lives ruined and billions of dollars lost.
And Coy, why did he laugh? Because he has what? Presidential immunity.
Right.
That's why he left. He knew nothing would get done to him. He knew it. He's like, they're not going to have presidential immunity.
Whoopsie daisy, I lied and killed a bunch of people. Whatever.
Oh, whatever.
Not a big deal. Yeah, but that's how they view it. So here's the rest of the video.
I think it came up before. President Ford's pardon. Very controversial in the moment.
Yes.
Hugely unpopular, probably why he lost in '76.
Yes.
Now looked upon as one of the better decisions in presidential history, I think, by most people.
That was the pardon.
If he's thinking about, well, if I grant this pardon to Richard Nixon, could I be investigated myself for obstruction of justice on the theory that I'm interfering with the investigation of Richard Nixon?
Kind of.
So this would fall into that small core area that I mentioned to Justice Kagan and Justice Gorsuch of presidential responsibilities that Congress cannot regulate.
How about President Obama's drone strikes?
So the Office of Legal Counsel looked at this very carefully and determined that, number one, the federal murder statute does apply to the executive branch. The president wasn't personally carrying out the strike, but the aiding and abetting laws are broad. And it determined that a public authority exception that's built into statutes and that applied particularly to the murder statute because it talks about unlawful killing did not apply to the drone strike. So this is...
Yeah, sure. It didn't apply to it, even though he was the one that had to sign off on the assassination of a U.S. citizen. If not directly responsible for the murder, he ordered the assassination of somebody else, which is still...
And understand this, that statement he said about, they really pretty much, they can't do anything if under the murder clause if they use drones and whatever.
Yeah.
So imagine if they decided American people were fed up and we were tired of the way the government, which we are, and they decided to start drone striking Americans. Could they be prosecuted as of right now? Based
no, under the lawyers' arguments, no, they would not be able to be prosecuted because they were under official acts in order to stop terrorism. See, this is the word. This is the thing that people don't understand. If Obama is able to get away with that because this guy was a terrorist, and they label you a terrorist for the protection of the United States, could a president, essentially, if they deemed Donald Trump to be a terrorist, could they drone strike Donald Trump even though he's a political rival? Yes, according to their argument. They could, because they already see him as being detrimental to our democracy and also a terrorist and an insurrectionist, right? What stops them from calling in an assassination of Donald Trump in order to protect the American public, in their words, and their arguments, right?
Exactly.
That's insane.
Yep, and you also got to look at the DHS list of what's considered a domestic terrorist. Yeah, so if they decided to go out and just start taking people out under that clause, it'd be justified under the current way things are right now. It'd be justified. It wouldn't be murder.
No, it wouldn't be murder. It was a justifiable.
Even though Michael was a law-abiding citizen, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't mess with nobody. He doesn't have any speeding tickets. He's never robbed no one, but he was a veteran. And under our list, veterans are considered domestic terrorists. So yeah, we can just bomb the crap out of him and nothing will happen to us.
So here's your terrorist definitions right here from the FBI. So domestic terrorism, violent criminal acts committed by individuals or group to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influences such as political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature.
That is a wide swath.
That's just about everybody in the country.
So the only difference between international and domestic is that one happens overseas and one happens internally. That's the only difference in the definition.
And so if you look at
or state sponsored, they even had to put that in their state sponsor, which is Iran.
I was just going to ask, where is the basis of the constitutionality of this particular definition? Because I'm not seeing it.
What do you mean?
There's not.
They don't believe in a constitution.
Yeah,
but if you look at the definition of a domestic terrorist, that's pretty much every single American. So they can deem every American a domestic terrorist, which gives them the right to what? Take you out. With nothing ever happening.
So if you're a straight white male who's a Christian nationalist under the auspices of this particular definition of domestic terrorist, that is presidential grounds for Biden 2.0, let's just say, in the near future, to be like, you know what? If you're having problems whether for me or Trump, then you're dead. That's
You're a
what he can
domestic
say.
terrorist.
Yeah. But that's the arguments they were using against
Yeah.
Trump's lawyers right now, is the fact that could a president assassinate an opponent or stage a coup or whatever else like that. That was the hypotheticals they point out. Is like only if it applies to Donald Trump. But what they really mean is like only if they're against what we want. If it was for somebody that we wanted to cause a coup, then yeah, that's fine. Or if it was to take out, say, somebody like from the Proud Boys, or not Patriot Front because they're feds, something like that, then they could, right? So in the same vein, could they assassinate or drone strike Antifa if they wanted to, as long as they classified them as a domestic terror organization?
Which they have, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, they have in some places, but not all places.
But they could, based off
They could.
their logic. They could.
Yeah, they could.
Have
They
they
absolutely could.
Now they're not going to come out and say it because that'll look bad. But technically, if they did, nothing would happen.
And here's another video. There's like there's only two more after this. There's this one and the next one that we got to really get into because it comes to the crux of the argument, which is this one, which is what constitutes an official act, right? Because this is one of the questions that really comes up with this, is that what is an official act and what's a personal act, right? An official act can be deemed, like I said, an official act could be killing a U.S. citizen in a foreign country, like they deemed with Obama, is that they deemed his actions to be credible and an official act because the son of the terrorist, was a threat of some sort, even though he was in a civilian restaurant and he was 16. Right? So that guy's a threat. So that was okay. That was an official act. But what Trump did was not an official act. That was a personal act because it was for his re-election campaign. That's what they're arguing.
Mr. Dreeben, does the president have immunity, or are you saying that there's no immunity, presidential immunity, even for official acts?
Yes, Justice Thomas, but I think that it's important to put in perspective the position that we are offering the court today. The president, as the head of the Article 2 branch, can assert, as applied, Article 2 objections to criminal laws that interfere with an exclusive power possessed by the president or that prevent the president from accomplishing his constitutionally assigned functions. That is the constitutional doctrine that currently governs the separation of powers. What petitioner is asking for is a broad blanket immunity that would protect the president, a former president, from any criminal exposure absent impeachment and conviction, which has never happened in our history. And we submit that is not necessary in order to assure that the president can perform all of the important tasks that the Constitution reposes in him.
Over in not so distant past, the presidents or certain presidents have engaged in various activity, coups or operations like Operation Mongoose when I was a teenager, and yet there were no prosecutions. Why? If what you're saying is right, it would seem that would have been ripe for criminal prosecution of someone.
So, Justice Thomas, I think this is a central question. The reason why...
Before we go on, I want to bring up what Operation Mongoose was, because you really need to understand what he's talking about when he's referring to that, because I don't know if you know what Operation Mongoose was, but that was the operation where they were trying to do terrorist attacks on the United States in order to generate support to go to war with Cuba.
Yep, I remember.
Right, so that's what Operation Mongoose was.
Yeah, and they wanted to go to war with Cuba, but I think JFK was the one who said no, correct? Was it around JFK?
Yeah, it was around JFK, and then shortly later he was justly, unceremoniously evicted from the presidency.
Yes,
evicted from reality.
Yeah. He was quite quickly evicted for not following what the certain powers that be in the three-letter agencies wanted, and so that's what we're talking about. Operation Mongoose being one of those things where they tried to institute that.
there have not been prior criminal prosecutions is that there were not crimes. And I want to explain why.
There were not crimes. None of the things that we've mentioned on this program were crimes. They were all performed under official acts of the presidency. That's what they're arguing. So they want their cake and they want to eat it too, right? They want to say President Trump does not enjoy immunity, but all the things that all the other presidents could be charged with didn't actually happen, okay? Because they were under official acts. Just so you know, we're just trying to go after one guy, not all the other guys, okay? That's what they're arguing.
I'm just flabbergasted at the fact that that kind of thinking could set the precedent. And like we said at the top of the show, precedence is the theme that I think we need to establish as a foundation of how we're thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just insane to me to hear all this stuff from a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My gosh.
Well, the Trump lawyers had some insane theories too, so I'm not trying to give them a pass either. Both of these lawyers are stupid. I hate each and every one of them. And the whole idea that the president gets broad immunity over everything except for when it's the guy we don't like is something stupid in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I honestly don't think any government official, no one should have immunity for anything. A crime is a crime. You know, in Iraq and Afghanistan, if we accidentally hurt somebody, we wasn't immune from that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we was conducting official business, we're still not immune from that until the whole investigation's done and all this other stuff. They don't just brush that stuff off.
Right.
But these guys, he killed an American citizen, a 16-year-old, but it was official. Okay, yeah, whatever, we'll just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So I don't think any president should be immune, even Donald Trump. No one should be immune. No one.
Nobody is above the law except for the people we deem above the law.
Nowhere in the Constitution does it say you're immune from anything. It doesn't
say
anything.
In a just and ethical world, nobody would be above the law, but certain people pay a certain amount of money, they're above the law, and if they're friends with certain people, they're above the law. We know how the world works. We're not stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's idealistic that everybody is treated equally, but we know that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely know that's not true.
And you just look at the current climate of our government right now. They do the things they do because they know they're protected, they're immune, they have immunity, they're protected, qualified immunity, all that stuff. This is why they do what they do. And this is why they mock us and they laugh at us, because they know nothing's going to happen to them. And we're not going to do anything about it because we don't have immunity. If we did something, we'd go to jail in blink of an eye.
Right.
They do it. It's just like, oh yeah, they're working under official business. They have immunity.
And then you can joke about it later.
Yeah, and then they can
right?
Because nothing's going to happen. They know it.
Oh, there's no weapons of mass destruction here or there or anywhere.
Oh well, hey, we were
no big deal. Only thousands of people died. No big deal. No biggie.
They're all messed up for the rest of their lives. The ones that survived it, but no big deal.
Yeah, we just overthrew a guy that was in the country somewhere.
Yeah,
no big deal.
No big deal.
Or like Hillary Clinton with her. We came, we saw, he died.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal. It just happens that the conflicts of that, or the counter effect of that, is that we started slave trade in Libya again. So
no big deal though. They got their democracy though. They got the guy. We got the guy we wanted in office. That's not a bit. We told him he can get in office.
They're still using U.S. dollars.
Yeah,
That's
he wanted to start up slavery again. No big deal. So we put him in office and we just allowed him to do that little slavery thing. Even though we fought even though we fought a whole war over it. Back in, the early, the 1800s, we fought a whole war over slavery, but, we got our guy and he just wanted slavery. So we said, go right ahead, buddy.
We gave him democracy and then turned them into slave traders.
Yes.
It's just the most ironically comedic thing I've ever heard.
I know, right?
But we have immunity though. So we have immunity, so we can wash our hands of this. We can just.
All these people are insane. But let's listen to some more of this.
There are layers of safeguards that assure that former presidents do not have to lightly assume criminal liability for any of their official acts. At the outset, there is a statutory construction principle that is applicable here It arises when there is a serious constitutional question about applying a criminal statute to the president's acts. It is not, and I'm sure that we will discuss this, that no statute can apply to the president in his official capacity absent a designation of the president in it. But there is a principle that if there is a serious constitutional question, courts will strive to construe the statute so that it does not apply to the president. In addition to that, the president, I think has been mentioned earlier, has access to advice from the attorney general, and it would be a due process problem to prosecute a president who received advice from the attorney general that his actions.
Is he talking about Obama or Bush in that one? Because like I wonder like if he saw, because Bush got advice from a lot of people.
Yes.
In terms of the war in Iraq, so I think maybe that would constitute that, but whatever, you know. That's cool.
Were lawful, absent the kind of collusion or conspiracy that itself represented a criminal violation, which I don't really see as being a realistic option. And then if I could say one more thing, because you raised the question about potential overseas taking of life. And the Office of Legal Counsel has addressed this quite specifically. There is a background principle of criminal law called the public authority exception to liability, and it is read into federal law unless Congress takes specific action to oust it, which it never has done as far as I am aware. And in a case in which the president sought to engage in overseas activity that would result in the taking of life, OLC did not say the federal murder statute doesn't apply. That would be the thrust of my friend's argument on clear statement. Instead, OLC went through an extensive analysis on why the public authority defense would prevent it from being considered a violation of law to go after a terrorist, for example.
And here's the crux of that argument. It's fine because they were a terrorist, right? That's what they're arguing. It's fine because they were terrorists. Then what stops anybody from labeling anyone a terrorist in the United States? And as long as they're outside of the country, they can drone strike them in a civilian restaurant.
Exactly. Ding, ding,
right?
Ding, ding.
Because like according to that logic, right, Donald Trump right now could visit another country, so say somewhere in the Middle East or somewhere in Africa or whatever. It doesn't matter. Any country that you would be comfortable drone striking, just insert it there, right? Donald Trump goes to that. He goes out for a McDonald's meal, and then Biden administration bombs said McDonald's because Donald Trump was a terrorist, according to them.
Yep. You see where they're going with this immunity stuff. But look, Gary, don't come in here thinking you did something, because you'll get freaking embarrassed. You know, we're being nice right now. You know, you want to come in here and troll with your silly little comment, you will come in here and we will embarrass you, your mama, your daddy, your grandmammy, your kids, your dead great grandfather. So just tread lightly in here, because this isn't TikTok and this isn't any other social media platform. We will talk about your whole family and laugh at you. Okay, bye. Have the day.
Bye, monkey.
Anyway. Yeah, so like for me personally, like if you're gonna use that argument, if like Donald Trump's a loser and a traitor, then so is Obama and Bush, and they should both be tried as traitors. Yeah, same with Biden. I'm just particularly miffed about Bush and Obama because of the amount of war crimes both of them have committed. At least one of them only got the Peace Prize.
Yeah, hey,
which still is beyond me.
I mean, he got the Peace Prize for absolutely nothing because he
was black. Right, I forgot. He's also the only Peace Prize winner to bomb and drone strike another Peace Prize winner.
Yes.
And kill them.
Yes. It's amazing, right?
Seriously?
Yeah, no, that happened. Did you not know that story?
No.
Oh man, I gotta bring that up. Hold on. It's hilarious. By the way, he was, I think he was doing aid work, and then he happened to be a collateral damage of a drone strike that he ordered.
Oh, good.
Man.
But yeah, what else? You got one more, because we're getting close.
No, I just go ahead and cut it off. It was basically the last bit of the argument I was going to show was showing that should the courts kick it down back to the appellate because they're not making a good enough argument, basically. Is like, why should we handle this when a lower court could probably rule on this as well? And so, which really hampers Jack Smith's investigation, because if he gets kicked back to another lower court, it has a chance of being kicked back up to an upper court, because the Supreme Court is the last court, right? Is the last appeals court. So after that, it's pretty much done if you don't go to that point. So if they kick it back down, that means they have to argue in that court, they can rule it, and then he can appeal it, and it would still come back up to the Supreme Court, and they would have to rule on it anyway. But that could take months or even years for that to happen.
Yeah, it's just ping pong, back and forth. So, you know, at the end of the day, this whole trial, this whole immunity thing is election interference. They are trying to interfere with Donald Trump's chances of running for president. The more he's on trial, the more he's sitting in these courtrooms, he doesn't get the chance to get out there and campaign like he should be.
Yeah.
So it's all election interference, and they know what's going to happen. The Supreme Court's going to look at it like Coy said. They're going to kick it back down to the lower court. Jack Smith's going to have to go back to the drawing board. He's going to go through the process again. It's going to go back up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court's going to say, we already looked at this, same stuff, kick it right back down. And then Donald Trump gets elected. Now, if Donald Trump doesn't get elected, say he doesn't in the liberal world, you're never going to hear about this again.
So here it is. Here's the article. This is even from Huffington Post, by the way. So it's a liberal outlet. That awkward moment when one Nobel Peace Prize winner bombs another.
Oh, yeah. But it's okay.
Like,
he has immunity.
Yeah, he's presidential immunity, right? It's fine.
He has presidential immunity. It's okay, Coy. They can bomb the crap out of country. I mean, and kill innocent people and kill Americans. It's okay because they have immunity.
As long as they have immunity.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny to me that this guy has bombed more people than anybody else in the United States history.
Yep.
Right?
Jeez.
I mean, maybe besides like Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Dresden, right? Besides those, I'm saying in modern U.S. history, he's bombed more than any other president, even in Vietnam, by the way.
Those are horrible too. So, you know, I didn't agree with that whole bombing. I wasn't alive, but I don't agree with it. But it's just the fact that he was a Peace Prize winner that killed 2 U.S. citizens and then also bombed a Peace Prize winner. But he's still the good president. Yeah. But, you know, my closing argument would be this. I hope they do lose immunity. I really do. I hope they lose. Every single one of them loses it. And a lot of these people will be brought to justice. So if they lose it, you're going to see a lot of these former presidents that think they're safe. They're going to be sitting in a courtroom explaining why they lied to the American people and justice should be served.
Will they serve justice, though?
No, but Marlon, I got to ask you which time, because there's a lot of guys in cars that were bombed in the Middle East.
Yeah,
mistakenly.
What was his name?
Obama.
Basaki, whatever that guy's name, Charlemagne, whatever his name was. He died like a dog. You know.
Yeah, Soleimani. That's
Soleimani. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Like I said, it's like there's a lot of people that died in cars accidentally throughout that entire 20 years of war. Like, you got to be more specific.
Which car, which guy?
Yeah.
Which car, which guy, which family? I don't know. It was a lot of them. That's how they view it.
That one a year and a half ago.
Oh, you're talking about the aid worker with a bunch of kids that were delivering water in Afghanistan? Yeah, that one.
Oh, they tracked her. Yeah, they tracked the car. Yep. But hey, it's going to be interesting. It's getting close to election season, so they're going to really ramp up these attacks. And, you know, if this has to go back to the lower courts, you're going to see something else come out. There'll be something new that they've been holding on to try to get the man. So they're going to continue to interfere with the election. They're going to continue to try to keep Donald Trump in a courtroom. They're going to continue to try to give him these gag orders to keep him from talking to the people. They don't want him. But what these idiots don't understand is Donald Trump doesn't have to get on camera ever again all the way up until November. His base is going to vote for him. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're going to vote for him.
You also have to see how the vast majority of Americans are reacting to the protests in the universities and the fact that Biden or Obama or Hillary Clinton, whichever one is behind the scenes controlling things, has said that they were going to take in Palestinians from Gaza as refugees. And then people are scratching their heads going, wait, wouldn't that mean that Israel is oppressing Gazans in order to take them as refugees, because if they're fleeing an oppressive regime from somewhere, they have to pinpoint to the person who's doing it. Which you're selling weapons and money to in order to do it.
So you're helping people flee an oppressor while funding the oppressor.
Yeah.
To bomb the people that you're giving aid to help them after we said it before, after they're bombed. This is why we always say everything is a rich man's trick. These powers that be play both sides, man.
Yeah. Meanwhile, allowing 10 to 15,000 Hispanic migrants through our border every single day.
We are by the time the election rolls around, we're going to be looking at 20 million illegal immigrants in the country, which is larger than most states. I want you to let that sink in. They make up an entire state by themselves.
That's a demographic shift.
That's a major demographic shift.
So when it comes to these picking sides, when it comes to these man-made conflicts that they're creating, don't pick sides, because the powers that be are playing us for fools, and they're playing both sides. So why am I picking a side when our government is playing on both sides, and we're sitting here and arguing on which side is correct while they're playing both sides? They're funding both sides, and they're laughing at us. And you have Americans out there, kids, protesting one side that the government's funding. Then you have other ones protesting the other side that the government's funding. And at the end of the day, the government doesn't care.
Yeah.
Focus on America's problems. Put that much effort in the American people that are suffering every day, and you'll start to see change in this country. But we focus out instead of in. Our house is falling apart, but we want to focus on what somebody else's house. We got to start focusing on our house. Stop buying into their tricks and giving them money. I'm just saying. Yeah. All right. Any closing remarks, Coy?
No, I've said my piece. It's they're doing this for political reasons. They want their cake and eat it too. That's my summary of it. Is that they want to be able to enjoy presidential immunity when they're in charge, but when they're not, they want to use it against their opponent. That's what it really comes down to.
It's double standard right there.
Double standards. Jay, you got anything?
Yeah, I think for us as normal, average, everyday citizens, recognizing precedents and then holding those who are trying to sidestep that precedence, they're holding their feet to the fire, and then recognize, hey, you did this before, you're doing it now, we're not going to take it.
Exactly. And you're right. Stop picking sides. Call a wrong. There's good and evil. There's two forces in the world, good and evil. I don't care if they're on the right, and we say it on Savage Patriots all the time. We don't care if they're Republican. We don't care. We're a conservative podcast. But if we call them out because a right is a right and a wrong is a wrong, stop supporting these people when you know they're doing wrong just because you're loyal to a party who is not loyal to you. That's why I'm not in the party.
I want people to remember this word before we go. And I want you to think about what the Democrats are doing to themselves, is that they are after a Pyrrhic victory, right? It's a victory that inflicts such devastating toll on the victor that is tantamount to defeat. This is what they're doing to themselves. Is this right here? Is this definition? And understanding that is that they're doing everything possible to destroy Trump, but at the same time, they're destroying their base and themselves at the same time.
And before they let their base get destroyed, they will destroy our country. Because, it's just a loss to them. Hey, let's take the whole ship down. We don't care about them anyway. We'll just take the whole ship down. And this is what they're doing. Yeah. They can care less about their base. This is why they don't care really what these protesters are doing. Yes, they are showing force, but at the end of the day, they don't care if these guys don't vote for them, because if it comes down to it and Trump is the man and they know for a fact he's going to get elected, they know this. They're going to take the whole ship down.
Everybody does.
Yeah, they're going to take the whole ship down because they don't have a chance of winning. They know this. These young voters aren't going to vote for him. So, hey, let's go down. We're going to take it all out. So think about that. They're just destroying themselves, but they're going to destroy the country while they destroy themselves. Yeah. I'm just saying. All right, Jay.
Death throes.
That's about it. So, y'all, it's do we have anything for Friday?
Yeah, Marlon will be back. Don't have a topic yet.
All right. Well, until then, y'all, like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you Friday. Peace.